Hey, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. You're listening to the longest running superhero role playing game on Earth. I'm your host, the Game Master, and today we're talking about the Black Knight, Captain Universe, Iron Man, Makkari, Namora, Quasar, Thunderstrike, and the Vision. But before we get into that, smash like, make sure you're subscribed, and leave us a comment. That helps us out with the YouTube algorithm, but also we love to hear from you guys. We've got an awesome community here, and that's thanks to you. So thank you so much for being here. So, all that said, let's dive in. The prologue to today's story is a brief recap of several relevant adventures. Long ago, aliens called the Old Ones abducted a caveman. They twisted his DNA, forging a race of disposable soldiers. From their ranks would rise the man that Earth K knows as King Arthur. The Old Ones named their creations the Eldar and unleashed them against their foes, the Star Gods, and their relentless legions, the Necrons. As reinforcements, the Old Ones also forged another race, the savage green-skinned Krork. The Eldar were on the level of Gladiator of the Shi'ar, but the Krork were something else, an entire race of incredible hulks created to smash through the enemy on the front lines. We've covered all of that before, but what we haven't really talked about is how the Old Ones went on to terraform countless planets across the Earth K dimension. This made the planets habitable for the Krork, so they could breathe the air, eat the food, and survive. And that happened millions of years ago. So the universe is now alive with countless civilizations, yet not all of them progress alike. Some soar through space in starships, while others are still figuring out the wheel. And because of that, the Earth K dimension is home to far more fantasy worlds than one might think. In September of 1973, an immortal called the Dungeon Master transported a crowd from Earth to the world of Dungeons and Dragons. They had been enjoying a fair ride, and then, in an instant, they were thrust into a realm of swords and sorcery. Included in that group were one of Arthur's clones, as well as a man named Gary Gygax. They spent years adventuring in that world. Both Arthur's clone and Gary eventually leveled up, becoming immortals themselves. When they returned to Earth, the Arthur clone joined the X-Men under the moniker of Omnius, while Gary went on to write a very popular tabletop role-playing game inspired by his experiences there. And true to that game, Spelljammers exist, fantastical ships that sail not the seas, but the space between worlds. Some of them journey to Earth, or to be more precise, to the Hollow Earth, also known as Skartaris. The Hollow Earth is alive with countless fantasy creatures. So when the SDF-1 blasted a hole through the planet where Mansfield once stood, it stirred the hornet's nest. Which brings us to the main plot of today's game session. About halfway between Cleveland and Columbus, there once was a town called Mansfield. On the surface, it seemed dull and forgettable. But beneath that ordinary facade lay the worst evil imaginable, the fabled Lochnar, the very embodiment of all evil, chaos, and magic. It had crashed here long ago as a meteor, and by the 1990s, its power had grown, twisting the town itself and darkening the hearts of the men locked inside the state prison. The alien starship SDF 1 eventually obliterated the Lochnar, carving a hole straight through the planet, as if slicing out the rotten part of an apple. Initially, the tunnel was clean and precise, carved with deadly accuracy. But the earth could not hold, and dirt began to collapse around the edges, dragging what remained of Mansfield into the yawning chasm. The crater widened with each passing moment. The massive crater soon became known as the Hellhole. Brainiac's nanites swarmed it, stabilizing the area. The gray goo, microscopic machines that rearranged matter at the molecular level, consumed the soil and turned it into gleaming metal. The result was a massive metallic crater with a high-tech tunnel stretching into the hollow earth. One day, Hank Pym, the original Ant-Man, was on site, shrunk down to inspect the gray goo nanites up close, making sure everything was functioning properly. And by all appearances, it was. Suddenly, a deep rumble shook the hellhole, and then a massive red dragon emerged from the metallic tunnel. Its scales glimmered like molten rock under the dim sunlight, eyes blazing with fiery intelligence and hatred. The scientists and engineers scattered, trying to avoid the creature's scorching breath and slashing claws. Hank Pym shrunk down and, inspecting the gray goo nanites, watched from a safe vantage point, tiny enough to go unnoticed as the dragon's fiery attacks tore through the area. He immediately activated his comm, calling the round table for backup. A few moments later, something akin to a Quinjet appeared, engines roaring as it hovered over the crater. Iron Man switched to multiple vision modes, scanning the dragon for weak points and reporting to his team. Namora and Thunderstrike then prepared to engage, while Makkari readied for a high-speed flanking maneuver. Quasar and Vision were ready for cover and energy projection, while Black Knight planned to get people to safety. And all of this was under the strategic guidance of Steve Rogers, who is now known as Captain Universe. So we rolled initiative, and Makkari went first. In the Marvel Superheroes role-playing game, they say that Makkari has amazing strength, which is the ability to lift 50 tons with difficulty. Since we used GURP Supers with a ton of house rules, that's a strength of 223, which means when Makkari throws a punch, he rolls 23 d6 for damage, which he does, and he gets 87 points of damage. The dragon has 20 points of damage resistance, which we converted over from its 3rd edition D&D counterpart, in which it's called damage reduction. But then we also had to give it another 39 points of GURPS DR to represent the part of D&D armor class that represents its natural armor, which means our GURPS Red Dragon subtracts a grand total of 59 points of damage every time it's attacked. So Makkari's punch goes from doing 87 points of damage to only 28 points of damage. We then subtract that 28 from the dragon's 660 hit points. So now it has 632 hit points left. Out of curiosity, do you guys want me to go round by round and talk about how much damage each character took? On my end, that sounds like it wouldn't be interesting to you guys, but maybe I'm wrong. Let me know in the comments section what you would prefer, going forward. But for right now, I'm going to assume that sounds kind of tedious to the majority of listeners, and that you're probably more interested in just the overall story. Like I say, if I'm wrong, let me know, and I will go with whatever the majority of people vote for. But so that said, let's get back to the story itself. So slowly but surely, the heroes battle the Red Dragon into submission, eventually defeating it. They were aided by Hank Pym, the original Ant-Man, an Avenger who, despite his talents, had not earned a place at the Round Table due to his notorious history of domestic abuse. The Round Table isn't just a team of powerful heroes, it's a gathering of the most moral and trustworthy individuals in the universe. Membership isn't about who's the strongest or most famous, it's about character and integrity and the willingness to make difficult choices for the greater good. By keeping the team limited to those who embody those principles, the Round Table ensures that its decisions are guided by conscience and courage and a sense of responsibility that make it a force for true justice. Once the battle was over, Pym strode up to Steve Rogers, raised a brow, and said, "So does surviving this make me Round Table material, or am I still not good enough?" Tony Stark didn't even look up, and he said, "Ask your ex-wife Jan why she thinks you didn't make the cut," referring to the fact that Hank Pym is a wife beater. Steve Rogers stepped between the two of them and said, "That's enough, Tony. We all need to mind our manners, even you," referring to Iron Man. So Tony Stark took a step back and kind of raised his hands in mock surrender with a wry grin kind of still on his face. And it was as if he was gesturing, like, "I'm harmless for now." And Steve Rogers didn't even flinch. His expression was kind of unreadable. But Pym couldn't help but have kind of a small smirk tug at the corner of his mouth, too. Suddenly, though, all of this was interrupted when the communicators of the Round Table members went off. On the other side, the half of the team who used to comprise the Justice League were calling for backup because they were struggling to contain the Quiz, a bizarre supervillain who is said to have, quote unquote, every power you haven't thought of. And with the Quiz is a very chaotic group called the Brotherhood of Dada. The crisis that they had created served as a reminder that the Round Table deals with A-list threats, right? The world's most dangerous, high-stakes problems. But Earth K still needs heroes who weren't on the Round Table to deal with everything else, right? The smaller but still serious threats, and to help keep the world from spiraling into chaos. And then that brings us to the epilogue. Hank Pym is now on a new Avengers team, built from some of the Earth's most formidable heroes. This new lineup includes Demolition Man, Hawkeye, Hellcat, Hercules, Luke Cage, Moon Knight, Namor the Submariner, Novar, Quicksilver, Red Hulk, Sentry, Star Fox, Tigra, U.S. Agent, Winter Soldier, Wolverine, and Yelena Belova, the second Black Widow, also known as White Widow. They remained stationed at the Hellhole while Tony Stark's engineers worked on installing a massive Iris-style vault door to seal the tunnel from this side. And while the vault door took shape, assorted monsters clawed their way up the tunnel. Each time the Avengers were there driving them back before it could spill out onto the rest of the surface world. And alongside his engineers, Tony Stark also turned his attention to Reed Richards II and the Stargate project. After all, the old ones had seeded the Earth K dimension with countless worlds that were ready for life. And now the people of Earth K are preparing to step beyond their home planet and claim a future among the stars. But as is so often the case, that's a story for another day. We liked playing this one. Hopefully you enjoyed hearing about it. Like I said, if you want me to go round by round with what people rolled, if you like the math of it, because I know a lot of guys come from more of like a D&D kind of a background and that sort of thing. Maybe that's what people want. I know we also have listeners though that are from the comic book end of the spectrum, that maybe don't even like role-playing games. They just like hearing about their favorite comic book characters. I'm guessing they probably don't want to hear the math. But either way, let me know and I will do it the way you guys want. Um, Up until this point, I've been trying to do one like this week and do one like that week. You know what I mean? I try to do kind of some variety. But yeah, your input drives the channel. So let me know what you guys want to hear and we'll try to make that happen. But yeah, that's it for this one. If you guys are willing, as always, it would really help out the channel if you were to smash like, make sure you're subscribed, and leave us a comment. And from all of us here at the longest running superhero role playing game on Earth, we hope you have a good one, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.